like how I looked, how I felt. I had a lot of insecurity around that. And fitness was kind of the first thing for me that introduced changing something about myself, something within my control that, hey, if I actually put some consistency and commitment and effort to this, I can change something and be proud of, an aspect of myself. You know what I mean? And I remember for me, there was a moment in time where, back in high school, back in the day, my pivotal moment was when I saw a friend of mine, and this guy was quite charismatic, his personality. He was always doing like the leadership kind of roles in the school, doing the public speaking. And no one knew about this. But I remember one day in the change room when we were changing, he took his shirt off and he had this amazing physique. He had these blocky abs, this nice chest, thick back. And I was so amazed and I was so impressed and inspired. I was like, what? I did not know you had that. You know what I mean? And it was so amazing to me, but it really made sense in my head. It's okay, well, the type of guy who's a leader, the type of guy who's charismatic, who knows how to engage groups and earn respect. It just made sense to me as, oh, okay, of course he's in shape because the characteristics required, you know what I mean, to build that, it's not a surprise that he has all those other things. So that for me was that moment of inspiration to actually start getting into exercise, because the type of person that I was, I just didn't appreciate the person I was. I didn't like that I was shy, not confident, not able to be proud of how I looked. I mean, I would go to a beach and have my arms across my stomach, afraid everyone's going to look at my belly fat. You know what I mean? Things like that. And so I started that journey and I got quite obsessed with exercise because of the idea of, hey, this exercise it's something that's so available for you to work on. You don't need to do anything crazy to start that journey. And that's where people, they get too caught up in their head. They're trying to be perfect. Just start on something, start simple. I mean, when I started, my brother had a pair of 5 kilo dumbbells and I was just curling it until absolute failure. I had no idea what I was doing, but it was the start of habits that was really important. And I just stressed that, the reason why I was so passionate about fitness is just because how much it changed me. I mean, if you value your health, you get one life, you get one body, and you're not treating it respectfully, you're not putting the right foods in, you're not moving how you should, because your body's meant to move. To be, in your prime as a human being, you should be fit. I mean, think millions of years ago, if you weren't fit, you're getting chased down by a bloody lion or a tribe, you got to be fit. Fit people were rewarded. And that's why there's so many benefits associated with that nowadays, is because, yes, like in our biology, we should be in touch with that aspect. And just because of such a lifestyle change now in, modern society, people just aren't. We have a lot of stationary jobs and things like that. And, for me, the benefit of fitness was more than just, looking a certain way. It was feeling a certain way, developing a confidence within myself, developing the characteristics and commitments to actually be someone that, I felt proud of, right? And it opened a lot of avenues to me. It creates a lot of great first impressions to people. If you see anyone in shape, it just says something about them, right? So even if you've got a business, being in shape helps your business. And it's not the overall thing that's going to make your business successful. But if you, let's say, have a call with someone and they say you're in great shape, I mean, think anytime you've gone into a store and maybe they've tried to sell you clothes or something, if they were charismatic, they're in great shape, there's just a likability factor that's created, right? And I really started noticing this happen a lot with me. Whether that's getting attention in a social life setting, in a business setting, people are just a bit more open and receptive to you because it's this unspoken thing about, okay, well, he kind of looks a certain way. He looks like he takes care of himself. He looks like he holds himself to a higher standard of value, or herself. You know what I mean? And that's why I recommend, if it's not something that you've actually spent the time to focus on, go do that. One, again, for your health, you get one body, you get one life. You're not going to function as productive. You're not going to be as proactive if you're not focusing on your health. You're not going to have that clarity, that focus. And I know a lot of people who are busy will tend to actually justify that they won't exercise because it wastes time, takes time away from their business. But it makes you more productive. It makes you more focused. So there's more of a quality over a quantity type of mentality that you should adopt, right? And again, you got to think long term with it. Why invest into the health today? Because down the line, well, yeah, you don't want your body to shut down sooner than it should. You don't want to literally shave years off your life. So that's a big, big thing. And yeah, so the position that I'm in now, obviously I'm coaching it. I got results to a certain point. I've been doing that for a few years now. My coaching is based online now. And again, just like Carl said, I focus on business owners, professionals, because I can relate to that. A lot of my time is spent on the business. So you probably ask, okay, well, how does that look then? How can you still integrate the fitness when you've got other priorities, whether that's a family or you've got work that you want to focus on, but you still want to be, in good shape? And I'm going to kind of go over some steps. Obviously, my strength and my niche is with a bit more of a building muscle emphasis, right? I know not everyone wants to be this big bodybuilder. You won't. Okay. So you're not going to look like that because these guys live a totally different lifestyle. But you can still take certain concepts away from that to get great results, look great, feel great. Okay. And my advice to anyone who's starting out with fitness or who wants to get in the game is just make it easily accessible, something very convenient. Okay. Don't overcomplicate it. And there was a period of my life where cardio wasn't something I enjoyed doing, but all I did was just go out the door and just decide to run. And there was no more thought process. I didn't have any plan of, how long was I going to run. I'd just figure it out. I just went to figure it out as I go. So start with something just very simple. Don't overcomplicate it. And then you can build on top of that. You can habit stack, right? And of course, yes, you do want to have mentors. You do want to have people who guide you along the way because it's going to cut a lot of time. All right. So in regards to my journey of getting into a certain shape, this is a bit more of the next step. Once you break past that, I just don't feel motivated, this and that. Once you break past that point, because surprise, there's no magic solution to that. You need discipline, right? And again, you can balance that with the make it easy at the start. Don't set a standard too high. Just make it quite simple. But then you got to start practicing discipline. Once you get past that point, if you actually want to get great results with your training, you want to look a certain way, you want to get stronger, getting in certain shape. I like to kind of go over 5 little concepts and steps that will actually just really shortcut. And if you master those concepts, you're gonna find it quite simple and easy just for the rest of your life to be in great shape if you can actually get on top of these areas. And I'm going to kick it off, obviously, with the nutrition, right? So in regards to the nutrition, if you've got any weight goal, let's say you want to lose weight or you want to put muscle on, you need to understand how much food you're putting in your body. All right. So a lot of people think when they think about counting calories, for example, they get very intimidated. They say, oh, I don't want to count calories. That's going to take a lot of time. And it really doesn't. Right. And the philosophy is what gets measured gets managed. By the way, if you got questions, because I'm just going to wrap up some points. And yeah, Carl's just said it. So if you got questions, think of them now. I'll wrap up some points and then we can go into that. And yeah, think about the calories, right? What gets measured gets managed. Why is weight such an issue nowadays? Yes, the quality of food matters, and that's going to be a big difference between the focus and how you feel. But a lot of people are overweight because they consume too much, right? And it's a quantity game there. So they're eating too many calories for their body in comparison to what they're burning. So if you're not counting your calories or you don't understand how much you need for your body to actually be in a certain shape you want, whether that's to build muscle, maybe you need to eat more, or you want to lose fat, because everyone's in a different situation, right? But you need to understand how many calories do you need to obviously be in that shape that you want. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, how can we make it very simple and flexible according to your lifestyle? Because everyone's lifestyle is different. I mean, I've worked with plenty of, business owners who will just go hours straight working and they won't think one thought about nutrition, right? And typically what happens is you're going to go grab the most easiest thing available to you, whatever's convenient. I mean, whatever's fast. And what's fast? Fast food. So most people are going to get the fast, quick thing. And most of the time that's not good for you. And that's where people are compromising on their health just for convenience. So you got to make healthy eating convenient, right? You got to find a way. And I could give you all these strategies and this and that. But the thing is everyone's in a different situation. And what works for me or a client of mine might not work for you. So you gotta have a bit of intuitiveness, know some certain ideas, but apply what's best to your lifestyle. The goal is longevity and understanding how you're able to sustain a certain healthy way of eating, right? And again, how many calories are you taking in. And so you should understand that. You should know that it's a simple concept, and it's not that hard once you understand how to do it. There's just a bit of an adjusting period at the start, right? And that's kind of the nutrition front. Now I'm gonna just address a little bit of the training, because that's where my niche really is, and the passion is around obviously building muscle, getting stronger. And when it comes to this, there's a lot of mistakes that are made, and people kind of just go into the gym without a plan. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know why they're doing it. It can be confusing. You could just kind of feel muddled up, and you're going to waste a lot of time that way. So you need to understand that there's no best thing to do. There's no best program ever. You got to understand what's best for you. You know, what are your goals? What exercises are going to be the best tools in your tool belt to implement and actually, accomplish a result? And the philosophy I really like to think about is, okay, well, with the time that I have dedicated to my fitness, let's say if I got 40 minutes dedicated, what are going to be the best exercises for the goal that I want that's going to give me the most out of those 40 minutes? So I don't want to be spending time on exercises that, just don't give me much return on investment for the time that I have. And just a quick little side tip is compound exercises are typically great for that, which essentially means you're working multiple muscle groups. And that might be like a bench press or, a squat. An isolation exercise might be like a bicep curl. And you think, why am I spending time on a bicep curl when I could just do something bigger that hits more things in a shorter amount of time, right? And it's the concept of your time is valuable. If you've got a business or, you have a professional work life, don't spend time on things that just aren't really giving you much for the time that you're putting in. Okay, so that's the third thing. The fourth thing is, how are you performing this? The technique is super important. If you don't spend time at the start of your exercise career focusing on how you're performing in exercise, you are going to waste so much time. And down the line, I guarantee you it's going to kick you in the butt if you don't spend time on a foundation of technique with your exercise. The reason why is because, first of all, the boring answer is you just don't want to injure yourself. Okay, if you're starting to lift some weights, get stronger, you want to make sure how you're doing that is safe. Okay, and a lot of people really don't have a solid understanding around that. So spend some time, make sure your technique is on point. Get a mentor who can show you, someone who's had great experience, obviously has great results themselves, has helped other people do the same thing, and they can prove it. And that's something that you really want to focus on, is just great technique. Because like I said, your body's meant to move. If you're not moving your body through its ranges of motions regularly, well, you're going to develop movement pattern issues, right? But you got to learn how to move through those ranges of motion and strengthen them correctly. And that's where people go wrong. That's where people injure themselves. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard people, talk about bending or twisting one way and tweaking their back, right? And it wasn't that activity that did it. It was everything that led up to it. All right. So the boring answer is, you don't want to injure yourself. You don't want to be, restricted in your movement when you're older as well. So learn how to move correctly. Okay. Spend time on that. It's going to be very tedious. I guarantee you it's going to be tedious, but it's really going to pay off dividends in the long run. And the next reason is, well, if your technique is good, you're going to be able to lift heavier, and then you're going to get better results. Okay. So can't stress that enough. And here's another thing. It could be the best program in the world. Whatever your exercise is, it could be the best, most strategically designed thing. But if your technique is inefficient, it's a shit program. It immediately disqualifies the program. Immediately. That's how important technique is. Okay. It could be the best program ever. And if you're performing it wrong, it's going to be a shit program. Okay. Internalize that. And then the last thing is that your program, or whatever type of training you're doing, you should have a plan. Okay. Like I said, once you get past that beginner point where, you've set the habits in, you've started with something easy, and now you're starting to get serious results, or you want to go another step ahead, your plan, you should have a plan, right? And you should understand why you're doing what you're doing. There's a concept called progressive overload, which is getting stronger over a long period of time. And there's a lot of ways to do that. And this is the difference between, if you see someone, let's say, working out for 2 years, this is the difference between someone who's got a great result over the 2 years and someone who's just got mediocre results. Is one actually stuck to a plan. They knew what they were doing when they went into the gym. When I work out, for example, I know exactly what numbers that I'm hitting, how many times, how many reps. I know it all. All right. And what's great about this is it eliminates all the thinking, right? And typically the easiest one is get a coach to do that for you so you don't have to do it yourself. Uh, but that's going to give you great results. And if you can manage to find new ways to get stronger over a long period of time, that's where the real results are. And it's going to be, you're going to be a lot further ahead than most people who, spend time in the gym. And this is kind of boring advice, right? But at the end of the day, if you value your time, you would spend the time to learn about this. Because if you just think about in your head how many times a week you're working out, you spread that across over years. Well, if imagine, you spent, 500 hours over an accumulated period of time exercising, but you're doing it at 60%. What happens to those hours? You're only getting 60% of those 500 hours. What if you had just boosted to 80%? You know what I mean? So it's important to sacrifice a little bit of, spend some time, learn about this stuff, and then just get more out of it and you'll be set up. So those are kind of the five, implementable or five kind of concepts that if you get those on point, you're not going to have any struggle with getting in shape and continuing to get results, right? And again, why? So obviously you can have all those things. You can feel energetic, you can feel great about yourself, a lot more focus, confidence, and whether that's to look a certain way. There's so many benefits to fitness. I'm sure everyone understands and knows what those are. Okay, so again, know how many calories you need, know how to implement that, how to count that, and implement a flexible, sustainable way into your lifestyle. Know what type of exercises you want to focus on, spend your time on, know how to perform them, and then obviously how to integrate a plan that has progressive overload over a long period of time. Those are the five simple concepts. Simple, but not easy, right? But once you master it, guarantee you're not going to struggle with being in shape. It's going to be fixed for you. You know what I mean? It's going to be so easy from that point. And that's it. That's kind of all I have to say. Like I said, everyone's a different situation, so everyone's going to have different advice. I'm open to questions for anyone who wants to go deeper in a particular topic. So I'm all ears.
100%, man. That was some deep knowledge right there. Um, how about we do this? Can everybody write in chat how often they work out, so we get like a feeling of the level, so Will can sort of tailor um, his view. What I will also do is that I wrote a little summary and I will post that in the chat for you guys because it was so good.
Awesome. While you guys are typing that in, and another thing about how many times to work out, this is actually something, yeah, so we got Anders 2 to 3 times a week. There's no magic amount of times a week you should work out. Yep, running every day. Awesome. 3 times a week. Cool. Yep, an hour to 90 minutes, 4 to 5 times. So I've done 6 days, I've done 5 days, I've done 4 days. I've trialed it, and the answer is it depends on your program. It depends what you're doing, right? If you're exercising, let's say Erica is running every day. Why can she run every day? Because running is not as strenuous as heavy weights. So the body can spread that across, right? Now, for someone, okay, Carl, 4 times a week. Okay, cool. I do 4 times a week as well. I've done 6 days a week. I've tried that. But with the self training that I do, for example, where it's a bit more heavy weights, my body isn't able to actively recover enough to sustain that level of intensity, right? So the answer is there's no magic amount of days you should work out. It depends on your goal, depends what type of exercise you're doing. Cardio typically is just not as demanding on your central nervous system. It's not as fatiguing, right? So you can get away with doing that way more. You know what I mean? But if you're starting to lift heavy weights, you actually got to know when to taper off and not do too much. And that's a discipline in itself. Yeah, 2 days on, 1 day off. So if you're lifting weights, understand that rest is actually super important. I rest 3 out of 7 days a week, right? And someone might be like, "Well, I'm hustling harder. Why don't I have better results?" Because you don't understand why, right? There's a reason why. Okay, so that's super important. Cool.
Questions.
Anyone else got a question? DLG, you can. I know you've been training, man. Don't be afraid to ask me anything you like.
Go on then. Thanks, Will. Thanks, Cole and Tim, for organising. What I would say then is, if you get to a certain point, is there a time that you think, you need to change up your plan because you say achieved where you think you can go, So I've lost a fair amount of weight and now say I want to be putting on more muscle, this, that, and the other, but without gyms, say, being open here in the UK, what is there possible to do? I've got a set, maybe dumbbells, 10 kg it might be. But what is there that you can do to really? I've got a pull-up bar. What can you do to begin that journey to properly transform in adding muscle, say?
Yep, and this goes back to the fifth concept I spoke about, which is progressive overload, right? Getting stronger over a long period of time. So no matter how you're exercising, if you just implement that concept, you'll progress somehow, right? You can do that with body weight. So if I'm doing a basic push-up, okay, that might be hard at the start, but then it's going to become very easy, right? So what do I do from there? I'll make it harder. I'll change the variation of the push-up. I might elevate my feet now. So now I have to resist more in my body. Okay. Maybe I'll put a plate on my back. You know what I mean? Maybe I'll add more range of motion to the exercise. Whatever way you can find to make it a little bit more difficult and then eventually let your body adapt to that harder variation. Well, you're going to get results. That's how it is. It's the exact same with weights. The reason why gym is just better is because gym has more resources, right? It's more measurable because you've got the numbers of the dumbbells and the barbells. Body weight, yes, a little bit more difficult, but once you understand how to make certain variations harder, once you understand what makes a good program too, like a good training routine should strengthen all ranges of motion, right? A big mistake people make is like, oh, I'll just go do 100 push-ups and like 100, squats or something. Well, what about pulling? Your body should know how to pull, and it should be proportionate to your pushing strength. What about overhead pressing? What about vertical pulling? What about squatting? Things like that. So make sure you're trying to cover those ranges of motion with big exercises, and then just find variations within those ranges of motion, those movement pathways, and to make it harder over a long period of time. And like I said, if you're doing squats at home, that's too easy. Your legs are going to be so, it's not enough for your legs to respond. How can you make it harder? How can you make a leg exercise harder? Maybe make a single leg exercise. It'll be easier to add weight to that because you're only doing one side. So it's going to be a lot harder. That might be, putting your foot up on a bench behind you or doing lunges like that. Then you could hold weights. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Awesome.
100%. And to add on to that, there's some of us are not as lucky as you will that have access to that gym. Could you expand a bit on the home working out and COVID stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I had clients who were working out from home during that period. He still got results. And here's the thing, right? If your goal is to lose a certain amount of weight, you don't even need to work out to accomplish that. Not saying that's the best way to do it, but I'm saying that to get the point across that the nutrition is actually responsible mostly for the weight. Okay, so get that in your head. The exercise is a bit more for strengthening and function, right? Really good takeaway. I'll just quickly answer Carl's one and then I'll jump to that, Erica. So just trying to get my head wrapped around during quarantine, right? Yeah, so during quarantine, I think people want to move more anyways, right? Because you're just sitting around doing nothing. So you got to learn basic bodyweight exercises that aren't too easy, right? Like I said, there's going to be a point in time where a squat's not enough. It's just not enough. So like I said, you got to find maybe a single leg variation, any kind of way. When I started working out, I didn't have access to a gym. Most of my first years of exercising was purely at home. And you just got to be creative. I would be stacking a bag full of just books and I'd wear the bag and I'd be like doing push-ups, doing whatever I could. You got to be creative. Like I truly believe that if you really want it, you'll find a way. If you're coming with excuses, you don't want it enough. Oh, I just don't know, I don't know what to do. Why don't you Google something? Of course, it's not going to be the best thing, but you could have taken action somehow, right? You could have put you got to be creative, especially when you're at home, okay? It's just a whatever it takes mentality. And I don't expect everyone to have that. Obviously, it's a bit more of a passion of mine, so I'm more enthusiastic to do that. But hey, you got to remind yourself again why you should take care of this area of your life. And when you remind yourself, it'll be a bit easier to be disciplined like that. So yeah, be creative if you're at home. Don't think it's an excuse not to work out. I'll wait till the gym's open. No, don't do that. Set the habits now too. So important to set the right behaviors and routines. So when the gym's open, you're already exercising 4 days a week. It's not hard for you to do that. You're already thinking about your nutrition. Yeah. Set up the foundation. Okay. That's what I would say. And Erica, yes. Making healthy eating convenient. Yes, you could do smoothies. You could just prepare something in the morning. A lot of times I'll be out just for several hours in the day, and my body, I need a lot of food to maintain my weight as well. So I'll just put like rice is super easy for me, for example, right? I prefer bulk foods that's not too expensive, right, but still healthy. So rice, for example, so I could just have all of it constantly, right? Because I eat a lot, and that so I'll just have like rice and chicken. And I know it's like your typical, bodybuilder answer, but it's super simple. Just put something in Tupperware, bring it with you, and put it in a fridge or microwave it when you need it. Yeah, just make it super convenient. Don't stress too much about it. Bring the food with you if you want, or there's meal prep companies that already have the prepared food for you. Bit more costly to do that. Or Erica, like you just said, smoothies are it's a lot of simple things. It's not too complicated. You just got to implement it, right? A lot of people just don't implement simple ideas, but the simple ideas are what gets the results. Okay, so that's what I would say is bulk foods that if you're trying to look for budget, yeah, man, things like rice, things that you can just constantly make that are quick to make that you don't need to be super fancy with, and then you can just prepare that beforehand. Doesn't take long. Really doesn't take long. Open a container, put food in it, close it, put it in your bag. I sometimes don't even want to do it. I'll be ready to leave, so excited to go out the door, and I'm like, I gotta go get the food because I know that when I'm out and I'm hungry, I'm gonna have nothing. So yeah, that's what I would say. Best way to learn good form for exercises, Tim? Yes, so the best way is to, if you had someone who was very experienced in person, is just pay them, because I mean, if you're trying to ask for free advice from them, they just won't put as much attention on it, right? Especially when they're busy. Like they got people paying them, like pay them, all right? And get a PT. There's a there's a thing about online that you got to be really careful with, is that a lot of people actually aren't that good at technique, and they'll claim to be good, and just because they look a certain way doesn't mean their technique is the best. Some people genetically just get better results. So many reasons, right? But you got to go to the right people. It's not enough to, and especially if you can get them in person, it'll be even better, because they'll see what's happening with you. There's so many clients that I've coached as well. Like when you see them in person, there are things you'd pick out to them that you just couldn't get from looking up online. For example, like with me and my clients, they just record their form and they send it to me. All right, there's a constant feedback. So what I say is, like, find someone you can have constant feedback with, who's very qualified and has a very deep understanding of technique, because typically if they're lifting heavier weight too, a bit more likely they'll understand, because to shift heavier loads, they need to have a deep understanding of the technique. So that'll be very important. And best way to learn good form quickly, don't do it heavy. Don't try to feel like you're working out when learning technique. If you felt like you had a workout, you're probably doing too heavy. You should feel like you didn't work out. Yeah, you should really feel like you didn't work out. If I ever train a client, like especially when I was training people in the gym, I always told them, hey, for the first few weeks with me, you're not going to feel satisfied with your exercise. You won't, because we're trying to learn movement patterns. But if you're loading the movement pattern too much, you're going to break your technique down too much. Okay, so start very light, get consistent feedback from someone who's done it before and is very good at it. That's what I would say. How does
Epic.
one?
Let's do Anders and then wrap it up.
Yep. So who was it? Which one?
From Anders, how does one count calories?
Super simple. I mean, they've got apps for this, right? MyFitnessPal is just kind of the general one that everyone goes with. You don't need to pay for it. The free version is more than enough, right? So all you need to invest in is like a little digital scale. They're maybe $20, super cheap. And all you need to do is put your plate on it, press on, whatever system you have, whether you do like grams or whatever, you set that up. And you just put the food on the plate. It'll tell you the number. Go in MyFitnessPal, look it up, cooked chicken breast. Yeah. Then it will come with that and it'll be like, oh, all right, I had X amount of grams, press log. That's it. Okay. And super simple. Some apps even have barcodes where you just scan the barcode and it will automatically register the food. And then you just write how much. So super simple. What I would say is just spend a week or two learning it, right? And learning how to, put that into your lifestyle. It'll be a bit of a learning curve. Might not be used to it at the start. But then obviously it's going to start feeling so natural, and it wouldn't take you more than 2 minutes max for one meal to really understand and make your results be predictable. That's the purpose, right? Predictability of where you're going, confidence that the effort you're putting into your exercise is going to something good. That's what I would say. Invest the time into doing that. Learn that at MyFitnessPal. Get a little digital scale. Yep. There you go.
Good shit. All right. I'm going to sum this up real quick. 5 things. Correct me if I'm wrong, Will. Number 1. Well, first of all, if you really want it, you'll find a way. I love that. Number 1, get started. The first step is half the job. Just get that discipline in and make working out a habit. Number 2, count calories. It's a lot easier to do than you think. Number 3, tailor your workouts around your lifestyle. Number 4, have a plan in the gym. Think 80-20 principle and return on an investment. Focus on the most important exercises for you. Number 5, how are you performing the exercise? And spend time on technique. Technique is very important. And last, make the plan. Was that a good summary of the
little
5 steps?
bit mixed around, but you got the concepts in there. Yeah, you got the concepts in there.
Good shit. All right, Will, with that being said, thank you so much for popping on today. I hope everybody else felt that it was as valuable as I did. I got some really good notes, and we also had the recording here. So me and Tim will have a discussion on if we're going to share it and how we're going to do that. Good stuff.
Thank you, guys. Awesome chat, and appreciate everyone's time.
Good stuff. That being said, let's get out there and crush our days.